This tutorial is going to cover the basic process of baking high poly detail to low poly detail using models from whether it's 3ds Max in this case, or even if you export it out of ZBrush, and then baking inside a Substance Painter. What I have here is I've used my name selection sets. And what I can do is I can select a model that way. And in this case, I have my low poly. If I put an unwrap UVW on and open the UV editor, you can see that it is perfectly mapped left to right. Okay? It completely fills in 0 to 1 space, which means whatever pixels are right here are going to start right over here tiling left and right and up and down. So I'm going to take this to start with and just do File, Export Selected. I'm already in the folder I want. And so I'm going to call this TechWell DLP for low poly and say save. Yes. Okay. All right, so I've exported that out. I'm going to unhide all. And then I still have the low poly selected. I'm going to go ahead and hide him. And now I'm going to select everything else because all the rest of this is my high poly. Say File, Export Selected. And this high poly. And having high poly and low poly helps a lot. Just say OK. Alright, now here on my model, there's one thing I want to point out. On this piece, I've actually gone in and I did create a material for it, a multi-sub-object material. The rest of the pieces are just using the basic Max colors. If I wanted them to actually have different colors, I would need to go in and actually set up additional materials for them. Now the reason I'm doing this is there is a process inside of Substance Painter that will allow you to generate an ID mask based on the material color that's assigned. So that can be incredibly useful for masking purposes, to mask out different sections. Alright, so I think we're good here. Let's go ahead, we'll grab all this again and do File, Export, Export Selected. There we go, there's our name, high poly, save. Okay. Alright, so the plane has a little bit of weirdness in the geometry. I think we're going to be okay though. So I'm going to jump in here now to Substance Painter. So I'm going to Alt-Tab over to it. There it is. Now here in Substance Painter, I'm going to do File, New, and I'm going to select a template. For this template, I'm just going to use Unreal 4. There's lots of other ones in here. There's non-PBR Spec Gloss, there's Unity 5. I'm going to use Unreal Engine 4. And now what I do here is I select my file. So I'm going to come in, select it. I've already navigated to these prior to starting the lesson just to get everything set up. So I'm going to say Open. I want my document to be 2048. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to discard anything that's here. Now if I hold Alt over here in this window, I can zoom out. I can roll my middle mouse wheel. Holding Alt will allow me to pan. Rolling my middle mouse wheel allows me to zoom in and out. If I hold Alt here, that allows me to orbit, and you can see there's my 3D object. This over here represents it as a 2D image. So what you need to do now is find your texture settings that may be underneath layers. I kind of rearranged my Substance Painter a little bit different. So in texture settings, I'm going to go down and find Bake Mesh Maps and click on that. Now inside it here is where we specify our high poly model that we're going to bake into our texture. So I come over to here to High Definition Meshes. I click on the new page. I want to select that _HP model and say Open. Now I'm going to increase my max frontal distance to 0.1 and my rear distance as well. Under ID, I'm going to go ahead and set color source to material color. Go back up to comment, and we should be okay. So I'm just going to hit Bake Default Materials. And now the software is going to go through and it's going to render out. And so you can see what's happening here. It's actually generating first a normal map, and now ambient occlusion is getting rendering. And each one of those is going to get combined together to create the overall material for the object. The thickness. All right, there we go. So it looks like that completed. It looks like it baked everything out. I'm not seeing any weirdness. Sometimes you may have to go in and adjust the 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 distance for the rendering. It seems like it got all my detail on. All right. So now I've switched over to Smart Materials. Smart Materials, the software comes with some of them. You can go to Substance Share and download more. These basically are a combination of the materials along with smart masks to get certain specific looks. So now here in layers, I'm going to hit the little trash can. I'm going to put a new folder. I'm just going to drag over into that folder bronze armor. And now the software is rendering it out, and that's what it looks like. So it looks kind of flat over here, but when you see it all lit with the physically based rendered lighting, it looks a little bit more interesting. Let's get rid of that one. I want it brass old. I think that's going to look a lot better. There we go. It's rendering it out. Oh, that looks way better. So if I don't want my entire model to just be that, I could come in and say, what I did is I'm going to right click here where it says folder 1. I'm going to come up and say add mask with color selection. Now I have my properties window here and see it rendered out my ID mask. So if I pick color, I could come in and say what I want to have that. So I want all my purple to kind of have that brass old look. So you can see there it is. There's the folder or the mask. It's using color selection. Let's add another folder, and this time we'll just throw this copper old in there. So it's going to take it a minute. It needs to kind of get in there and kind of process it. There it goes. It's processing. You can see the bar moving along. And it's going through and it's combining those maps together to generate the material. There we go. And so now we can once again just say add mask with color selection. And I want to assign that to all the green. So yeah, we're getting this nice, really nice combination between these different maps here. So we could go ahead and if we want to throw one more on there, let's say we do like a nice maybe like a rubber dry on there. Say it's padded around it. Oops, I'm going to drop that into the folder. Now see it's defaulting to everything, but if I come up here to the top and say mask with color selection, it should get in there. There it is. And I just need to click on the color selection, and now I can pick the color if I want it to be anywhere that red is. You can actually pick multiples if you want. A little black spot too. So now I have this, and because I built the model so it went all the way to the edge, and I actually repeated my geometry, I made sure the same piece of geometry was mirrored over to the other side. This is going to tile really nice left to right. And so now I have this kind of wacky tech wall. So I can save my file. Once I've saved it, I can go to export textures. From here I just click and I'm going to specify a location. There it is. There's the path, the same location. I'm going to hit select folder. And now I can tell it what type of maps I want to spit out. So I'm just going to have it go ahead and render out the Unreal Engine 4. And that's going to create my 3 basic textures for me. It's going to create my base color. It's going to create a normal. There's almost always errors. I'm just going to say OK. And now, if I come over to my wall, there's my textures as PNG files. I have my base color, my normal, and then I have my ID mask. And inside the ID mask, you have your red channel is going to be your ambient occlusion, your green is going to be your roughness, and your blue is going to be your metallic. So that's the basic process. Now I did a model here that was pretty, pretty intense, kind of crazy and high tech. You don't have to do something that complicated. You could do something a lot simpler than this, or you could go a lot more complicated.